Level 1, the letter. You are 28. Your account is overdrawn. Negative $417. There is an eviction notice taped to your door. 3 days left. 3 days before your life is stacked in garbage bags beside the curb. You lost your job almost 3 months ago. The calls stopped coming after that. Then the messages stopped too. No partner, no family, no friend generous enough to confuse pity with loyalty. Just a one-room apartment that smells like dust, old wiring, and the slow rot of things falling apart. You check the mailbox because desperation makes routines feel like strategy. There is one envelope inside. Heavy paper. Cream-colored. No stamp. No name. That is the first detail that chills you. The second is what is written inside. One card. One line. Give up what remains of your life, and a greater one will be arranged. A phone number sits below it. Nothing else. No greeting. No signature. No explanation. You stare at it. Then laugh, because this is either madness or theater, and both are more interesting than your current options. You type one message. I'm ready. The reply comes almost instantly. Tomorrow, 7:40 a.m. dark suit. Do not be late. You do not own a proper suit. You trade your last decent watch for one that almost fits. The shoulders are too tight, the sleeves too long. You look like a man pretending to belong somewhere expensive, which is useful. A black car stops outside your building the next morning. No introduction. No small talk. The back door unlocks. You get in. The city opens around you in glass and steel. Downtown. Financial district. Real money. The kind that never appears in photographs with its hands dirty. The car stops in front of a building where people like you do not get invited unless they are delivering food or bad news. Inside, a visitor badge is already printed. Someone knows your name. Someone has prepared your arrival. And when the elevator rises toward the upper floors, a thought settles into your chest. You are not being rescued. You are being selected. Not by a recruiter. Not by a firm. The Illuminati had found you. If you like dark rise and fall stories, subscribe now. And tomorrow, you stop belonging to yourself. Level 2, the climb. The office smells like burnt coffee, polished wood, and controlled panic. You are hired into a firm that should never have looked twice at your resume. Yet your desk is ready. Your credentials work. Your name is already in the system. No one questions it. That tells you everything. You know just enough to be dangerous to yourself, not enough to survive here. The first meeting starts at 9. At 8:53, your phone buzzes. Unknown number. Open the shipping exposure report. Page 14. Mention the Southeast Corridor risk when he asks for weak points. You do. The room goes quiet. A senior executive turns toward you. He does not smile. He recalculates. By lunch, people know your name. By the end of the week, they resent it. Your phone becomes the real hierarchy. Read this. Ignore that. Stand near him. Do not sit beside her. Mention copper. Do not mention debt. Leave at 8:12. Answer the second call, not the first. You follow every instruction, and the results are obscene. 6 months later, you are promoted. 1 year later, you are making more money than you ever imagined when you were eating canned soup in the dark. A better apartment, a German car, a watch that feels heavy enough to count as identity. You stop checking prices. That is when people begin to think you belong. But the messages keep coming. Always late, always cold, never congratulatory. Do not confuse access with freedom. That line stays with you. So does the next one. The Illuminati built your rise. Do not mistake that for generosity. Then the assignments change. No longer just reports and market signals. Now it is dinners, private fundraisers, art openings, where the paintings are irrelevant and the guest list is the real exhibition. You are told who to meet, who drinks too much, who talks when flattered, who has a daughter, who has a weakness. At one event, you meet the daughter of a senator, 26, Harvard, controlled smile, expensive restraint. She likes that you listen more than you speak. Coffee becomes dinner. Dinner becomes long drives and low-lit bars where she talks too freely about committee votes, donor pressure, energy deals, foreign calls her father never officially had. You remember every detail. You pass it upward. The reply comes seconds later. Good. Continue. That is when the illusion ends. You were never hired to read markets. You were placed to read proximity. And tomorrow, you find out what your value really is. Level 3, the machine. By the third year, your rise no longer looks impressive. It looks unnatural. Vice President, Strategy Division, private calls, restricted memos, rooms where billion-dollar decisions are spoken softly, as if volume might invite morality. Now the instructions are no longer observational. They are operational. Move exposure before Thursday. Push the acquisition. Delay the downgrade. Get him out of the room. You do not ask how they know what is coming. That instinct died with your first bonus. One recommendation earns the firm $80 million in 72 hours. Another saves a major client from a collapse no one else saw coming. People begin calling you visionary, disciplined, brilliant. It would be flattering if it were true, but you are not brilliant. You are early, because the future keeps arriving by text message. Then comes the first engineered fall. A tech company is inflated. That part is real, but reality is not enough for the people behind you. They want the collapse accelerated. You pressure one lender. A warning note appears from the right analyst. A media contact shifts the tone. A headline becomes a panic. By Monday, the stock is sliding. By Wednesday, retirement funds are burning with it. Thousands of strangers lose a decade of savings while you sit beneath soft lighting and discuss necessary correction. And the worst part is simple. You sleep well. That is the first true payment, not what you did, what it failed to do to you. Soon after, the curtain lifts. No more hints. No more indirect language. One message arrives just after midnight. You do not work near the Illuminati. You work inside its system now. There it is. Plain, cold, final. The next phase is politics. Not speeches, not handshakes. Infrastructure, campaign financing, narrative control, opposition damage. You are sent to rebuild a Senate race in Ohio. $12 million through respectable committees with filthy intentions. You reshape the candidate, sharpen his message, bury one story, release another. An old affair becomes breaking news. A sealed arrest reappears. A pastor changes sides 48 hours before the debate. Nothing is random. That is the luxury of power. On election night, the senator wins comfortably. He thanks voters, his wife, his team. Not you. He knows the rules. You do not appear in victories, only in outcomes. Then come more races, governors, judges, committee chairs. You stop counting states. You start counting favors. Each win becomes a debt. Each debt becomes policy. Each policy becomes money. And tomorrow, you meet the people who designed the whole machine. Level 4, the circle. The jet lands in Montana after midnight. No logos. No public flight record. Just mountains, black sky, cold air, and a compound built by people who understand that real power does not need decoration. Stone walls, glass corridors, security so discreet it feels expensive. There are 11 people in the room when you enter. You recognize 3 immediately. A former Secretary of State, a tech founder worth more than several nations, a media owner who can ruin a reputation before dessert. The others are harder to place, which usually means they are worse. One chair is empty. Yours. No one introduces themselves. No one needs to. You are not welcomed. You are evaluated. How many campaigns? How many market shifts? How many pressured votes? How many journalists handled? How many judges influenced without ever knowing your name? You answer clearly. The older man at the head of the table listens without expression. Then he says one sentence. Control is not forcing obedience. It is designing dependence. That is the moment it locks into place. The promotions, the leaks, the crashes, the scandals, the donations, the entire structure. The Illuminati never cared about money by itself. Money is bait. What matters is dependency, debt, compromise, fear, need. That is the system. And suddenly your whole life makes sense in the ugliest possible way. International operations begin weeks later. A South American government refuses a minerals agreement. You do not send soldiers. That would be messy. You fund opposition organizers. You choke port logistics. You redirect media coverage. A general's family gets visas. A food shortage appears in exactly the right districts. A minister suddenly discovers courage on television. 6 months later, the president resigns. 9 months later, the contracts are signed. $30 billion in assets shift quietly into approved hands. Officially, it is a democratic transition. In reality, it is choreography. You are no longer climbing. You are arranging instability for profit. And for the first time in years, a thought slips past your discipline. Maybe the real trap was never the poverty. Maybe it was the moment you stopped being shocked. And tomorrow, the price of power gets personal. Level 5, the throne. You are one of 12 now. No one says the rank aloud. They do not need to. Power announces itself through silence. Your properties multiply. Palm Beach, Geneva, a private island in the Caribbean where presidents arrive smiling and leave owned. At first, the island looks like luxury. White stone, blue water, perfect staff, perfect privacy. Then you understand what it really is. An archive. Every dinner recorded, every argument preserved, every affair, every payment, every appetite catalogued with clinical precision. No threats are spoken. They are not necessary. People govern differently when they know the footage exists. That is the elegance of the Illuminati. It rarely needs force when memory is enough. Now nations come to you the way desperate men approach loan sharks. A government needs emergency financing. You offer terms, energy rights, telecom access, defense language buried in annexes nobody will read until it is too late. They refuse for a while. Then the currency collapses. Imports freeze. Hospitals run low. Crowds fill the streets. They return. Softer this time. You sign with a fountain pen worth more than a year of their average salary. No army crosses a border. No flag is raised. Still, a country is conquered. That is modern empire. At your Palm Beach estate, ministers sit beside founders, editors, and bankers pretending they are discussing markets when they are actually dividing the future. Votes are counted before parliaments meet. Laws are drafted before protests begin. And still, cracks appear. A reporter in Miami starts asking about the island, flight records, guest names, a dead accountant in Nassau. Then, an investigator in Washington starts linking shell companies across 3 jurisdictions. A senator you once made begins delaying your calls. That is new, and new things deserve attention. You bury one story, erase another, move a witness, burn records. 2 cases disappear. 1 does not. There are leaks now, internal ones. Someone inside the circle is talking. Not enough to destroy the Illuminati. Enough to prove even old systems can bleed. You hold one more summit on the island. Storm outside. 12 seats inside. Only 10 are filled. 1 member is traveling. Another is unwell. No one believes either excuse. For the first time, the room feels smaller than the danger around it. And tomorrow, the structure starts choosing what it can afford to lose. Final level, the erasure. It begins before sunrise. Rotor blades over water, engines on gravel. Then the unmistakable sound of disciplined men moving fast. Your security team starts shouting through the comms. Too fast, too sharp. That usually means the perimeter is already gone. The monitors in your bedroom come alive. Vehicles at the front gate. Boats near the dock. Federal jackets. International Task Force insignias. Men with rifles and posture that says they came here with signatures already signed. You move through a private corridor behind the wine cellar, bare feet on cold stone, a silk robe tied badly. It would be funny in another life. You reach the safe room expecting steel, screens and options. Instead, there is one table, 2 chairs, and someone already waiting. A woman from Montana, from your first night inside the circle. Perfect posture, perfect calm, no visible weapon, which is how you know this is the weapon. Outside, the estate shakes with controlled explosions. Inside, her voice stays level. The raids are real, she says. The panic is real. The collapse is real. Then she pauses. But this ending was approved. That hits harder than fear, because now you understand. Not betrayal. Accounting. The investigator in Washington. The journalist in Miami. The leaked records. The delayed calls. The missing members. None of it was chaos. It was filtration. You became too visible, too central, too traceable. The Illuminati protects the structure by removing the silhouette. And lately, your silhouette had grown too large. You were useful when you were hidden, dangerous once you became memorable. You ask who made the decision. She almost smiles. You still think decisions happen above the system. That is the final humiliation. Not that they are ending you, that no single person needed to choose it. The machine did. You look at the walls, at the sealed door, at the woman who seems almost kind in the way executioners sometimes do when they are certain. For a moment, you think about running. Then you remember something humiliatingly simple. There is nowhere on earth you can go where the Illuminati does not already own the room. She slides a folder across the table. Inside are photographs, properties transferred, accounts frozen, allies cooperating, 3 men you trusted giving statements, one of them crying, pathetic. Another page shows tomorrow's headlines, already drafted: conspiracy mastermind, global fixer, architect of corruption. Your face will be everywhere by noon. That is your final assignment, to absorb the myth, to let the world believe the rot ended with you. You were never meant to die as a member of the Illuminati. You were meant to disappear as its proof of innocence. That is different, and worse. Outside, boots thunder closer. The door mechanisms unlock with a heavy mechanical click. The woman stands. She does not need to say goodbye. People like her never confuse completion with emotion. You stay seated, because suddenly you understand the full shape of your life. You were not invited into power. You were turned into insulation for it. A layer, a shield, a name to sacrifice when the fire got too close. The first black car took your old life. This room takes the illusion that the new one was ever yours. The door opens. Light spills in. Voices shout your name. And as armed men flood the corridor, one truth settles over you with terrible clarity. You were never becoming one of the Illuminati. You were being prepared to vanish for it. If you stayed to the end, then you already know the real lesson. Power never asks for loyalty. It asks whether you are willing to disappear. If you want more dark rise and fall stories like this, subscribe, leave a like, and comment where you're watching from.